Okay, so we'll wait, I think 1 or 2 minutes just to see if like everyone that like says they will join. But it seems we have most of the participants online already. Maybe before we start, we would need a note taker. Is someone willing to do that?
Hi.
Oh, hi, David.
Hi. I just opened my window, my camera. I would, but I'm very bad in taking notes. Everybody hates my protocol, so I don't know whether you want me really to do it.
Okay. Is someone willing to help David to do that? I will share the note-taking tools that we have.
I can take notes when I'm not speaking, at least. So we can help each other out.
Yes, I will also. I already opened the Hedgedog, so I will try my very best.
Okay. Yeah, it seems we have a couple of people on Hedgedog to take notes, so should be good. Okay. I think Lisa may join Notcha, like when that will be the case. But given we have a few people and the first few slides are mostly chair's update, we'll start as is. So yeah, hey everyone for the first meeting, even though it's like virtual, it's the first meeting for Open Cloud Mesh. I will stop my video so we can all focus on the slides. But this is the first meeting for OCM, the working group. The session is recorded, so if you have any concern or things around that, please note it's recorded. There will also be a log for the chat that like when you discuss. So that's something you should note as well. Another thing which I will keep on slides for probably like 30 seconds to 1 minute is as part of joining this meeting, you will agree to the various IETF policies. These are like reminded in what we call a note well, which is a comprehensive and high-level set of explanation about our policies. This includes, of course, patent and like IP-related matters, but also anti-harassment policy and the intellectual property rights you give. So I will leave it for like 30 seconds and continue afterwards. Okay. So hope you've like all noted well the note well. And on that, we'll continue. Some meeting tips. So this meeting is like fully remote. So make sure you have like your audio and video off unless you're presenting during the session. So for instance, like David, I think you can turn off your video. The idea is like so we can like focus on the slides and the people that are talking. Depending on like your audio setup, use a headset that's like recommended mostly so there's no echo back, and that's how you're comfortable. During this meeting there might be questions, so there's like some two links in Meet Echo that like you can queue. So you have like a meeting with like a hands up, which is like barred, which should allow you to join the queue. Join the queue before talking, and once we will go through the queue, when it's your turn, state your name each time before beginning to speak to the queue. So for instance, for myself, I will say Thibaut Meunier, and I will continue. On that, the agenda. So for now, like we're going through like the administrativa, which is run by the chairs, which is at the moment run by me. So we went through like the agenda, which is now. We'll go over like some document status because we had an adoption call over the past 2 weeks, and then we'll proceed with the agenda for the meeting. We'll start by Giuseppe, who will give us a history and current status for OCM work. Ongoing work by Miki. Followed by like the code flow enhancement and some proposal related to that with Miki. We'll continue and carry on with a summary of like OCM implementation effort, especially with interoperability and some like challenges that have been seen there by Madi. And correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. And finally, there's some time for discussion. This time for discussion might extend over like the other items in the agenda, but we have some time to discuss the current draft that we have. Any question, any agenda bashing before we start? Okay, doesn't seem there's anything. So some update on the document status. So we recently adopted the draft low-pricity open cloud mesh. So congrats to the group. We now have a document that we can work with and we can work on. I haven't moved the chairs haven't moved the document to adopted yet. That's something we'll do right after this call. Wanted to like share it at least in a meeting. One of the things that will change, and we'll be in contact with the authors, the name of the draft will change slightly to reflect the fact that it has been adopted by the working group. But other than that, this thing stands as is. There will also be an email confirming that the document has been adopted by the mailing. That's it for the document status at the moment. There's been a total of like 13 participants, I think, in the adoption call, with like overwhelming support for adoption and some very good feedback that I think have been updated and are currently in proceeding for the next iteration of the draft. Any question? Yes, Miki.
Yes, Miki Nordin. So I have a question about how it works with updating the draft now that it has been adopted. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So updating the draft now that it's part of the working group. So the working group adopted the draft. In the previous stage, the working group, like the authors of the draft, because it was an individual draft, were the sole controllers of the change, meaning that like if you wanted to change anything at any point, you could. Now that it's part and adopted by the working group is responsible for like vetting and updating the draft. It does not necessarily mean that like every time you make a PR, you will have to seek update for the working group, but like all changes that happen will need to be like reported to the group and vetted, should be in a meeting or on the mailing list.
Okay, so we don't need to. So we can update on the mailing list. Or another thing that I thought would possibly be the case was that we would, in meetings or interim meetings, accept or adopt the new work that's done. But that's not necessarily what we need to do. It could be enough to discuss it on the mailing list and see
Yes,
if there's
exactly.
any. Yeah, okay, good.
Definitely, if like there are like significant changes and you think that it would be valuable to have a meeting to discuss through these changes, because like multiple option or like it's like actual substantial work that like will change the direction of the document, we can hold like a meeting and like you should discuss with Lisa or like with me, like with the chairs. However, discussion on the mailing list remains the primary form for discussion.
Very good.
And yes, exactly as like Ted is saying on the chat, you should update the name of the draft to reflect the fact that it has been adopted by the working group. That's something I think we can follow up directly via email to make sure it follows the common practice. Okay, Miki, do you still have a question, or are you out of the queue? Okay, perfect. Well, if there's no further question, then we can start with the first presentation by Giuseppe. So let me share the slides up and give you control over them. OCM history, confirm selection, check. So I'm trying to find how to give you control over the slides. Tick.
But it seems to you did it yourself then. So do I have control actually myself? I'm not sure.
I don't think you have control at the moment. I'm trying to find the right button to give you control. But yeah, happy if you say
or
next,
in case
I'm happy
I can tell you, yeah, that is also fine. In the end, it's not really so many slides, so as you prefer, we can do like that. So okay, let's go ahead. So already thanks for this introduction and this question from Mike. I had the same question myself. Yeah, looks like I got the slides control. Indeed, I can go next. Right. Thanks a lot, Thibault. So hello everyone. I'm happy to see also many people. So many people, actually more than the usual calls we do about OCM. Also well noted. Thanks, Ted, about the name. Indeed, this is I know that this is customary to do the to have the draft named after IETF now that it has been adopted. So this will make sure that we change this in our GitHub machinery, let's say. So okay, this presentation is more like to give a little bit of an overview in general, also for people that maybe know a bit less about a bit of the history. Even though myself, I was not really involved since the very beginning. A very, very short introduction. My name is Giuseppe. I work at CERN and I'm the project leader of CERNbox, which is our cloud storage. And this is what we offer to everyone at CERN. And CERN has been involved with this initiative already since the very beginning. So this was born with Géant, that is an entity. Actually, a way to know about Géant is they standardize the EduRoam network, Wi-Fi network across Europe, for example, among many other things. And eventually it grew over time, and it has been adopted by what we call the CS3 community, or the Cloud Sync and Share Storage community, which is a community that essentially was born at CERN. So I'm kind of taking a little bit the hat of being of following this community, in fact. So this is something that went through over the years. You see here some pictures of the early days of the first tests and trying to bring things together. Then recently there's been a little bit more activity, and in fact the real activity started to happen essentially by 2020. So we had the very early versions. So the very, very first start version was actually 2020 that you see on the left. At the time, it was just the spec meaning like an open API spec file. That was it. Then we started to write a little bit on a README kind of companion document to say what it was not explicitly said. And at the very beginning, this was still very, very rough and very short. Eventually, we started to work properly on adopting the internet draft format from IETF. And this effort, apart the format itself, the effort was really to make an effort to clarify the specification, because there were way too many things that were given for granted or assumed implicitly, and we could already see divergence in the different implementations. So that in fact, the claimed interoperability was not really so much working as such. So 1 year ago, precisely these days, 1 year ago, we had actually a workshop where we presented for the first time this draft document, and we tagged the version 1.2. So this now started to be a proper document. And then eventually we kind of started that venture with IETF, we can say. And now, which is essentially 10 years down the line, we had already an important presentation. And I see here Peter Segedi even connected. So I allowed myself to steal a couple of slides from your presentation in an important public European forum, that is the JOSC Symposium. You see the link there, where this was presented as now this standard has been adopted by many EOSC nodes, as they are called. And the status now is that indeed we do have this draft. Okay, now I should update this page would have to be updated because, of course, the name of the draft is with IETF, not with my name, which is totally fine. And where are we now? So this is where I want to hand over the discussion. I started to work, and we started to work together, but in particular, I wanted to compile also as input for the working group a list of the different aspects of the specification, because in fact, the different aspects and different features, let's say, of the spec have different maturity levels. So some of them are absolutely mature, used a lot in production, and with demonstrated interoperability, as it was even demonstrated very recently at this European Forum. Others are just ideas or things which are like to be refined, etc. And especially the security aspects need an important review. So what I think we really seek out of this working group is scrutiny, ideas from people that never saw this work, and so that we can elevate this standard at a standard level. So what is typically an RFC. And with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Any question for Giuseppe? Thank you for the presentation. Okay, so if no question for Giuseppe that presented the history and current status, we're going to move to Mike, who's going to discuss the ongoing work.
Okay, I requested slides. Let's see if they...
I think I have to change slide before. So let me just change slide now. And I give you slide control, so you should have it.
Yes,
okay.
Great.
That should work. Yep, I will add a timer, which I found the button for. So you have 10 minutes, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I don't think I will need full 10 minutes. Yes, we have some new things that we are working on, and which is not yet in a state to enter the spec, let's say. So these are advertisements of datasets, request sharing, and journaling. So I will present them to you here. So the advertisement of datasets is based on a PR, which is available in GitHub that you can take a look at. So it adds a new endpoint to the discovery resource advertisement URI, and it specifies the format of a document served at that endpoint. So it will say what server has the resource. It adds an array of resources that you can see the display name of, the public URL if there is one of those, RO crate, which uses the research object crate specification for describing a dataset, and a provider ID. So the ID of the resource at the OCM server. And the idea of this is to be able to publish datasets that you want other people to be able to get a hold of. So you might ask, I'm collaborating with this university. What kind of datasets do they have? And then you query the OCM server and you get a list. But not all of those might be accessible publicly. They could have sensitive data in them, or other things that you might not want to publish directly. So a companion PR to the resource advertisement is the request share. So when you know of a data set that you want to access, you can issue a share request to the OCM server that has this resource. So this is also a PR in GitHub that you can take a look at. So it adds a new OCM endpoint, request share, and it specifies the payload of the request so that you know which OCM user who wants to receive the share, the share ID, and all of these things. And we would like to have feedback on these PRs. Are they interesting? Should we move forward with them? Is it something that we should work on, and should they be merged? So please take a look at them and see what you think about them. OCM journaling is a GitHub discussion point. So the idea is that we should be able to detect if we have missing OCM messages and be able to replay messages. So basically this adds a sequential ID to all OCM messages with a number series per remote provider. So if you get an OCM message with the number, the ID 3, and the last one that you saw was number 1, then you know that number 2 is missing, and you should be able to get that information back. So for if you have an outage or something like this, then it can be useful. So it would specify a condensed format. So there's some discussion going on how this could be implemented, how this could be added in a backwards compatible way, and what a condensed format. So for instance, if you have a share and followed by an unshare, then you could remove those to make the format much more concise. And all of this is detailed in the discussion. And yeah, I would like to know what you think of this. Is this a good idea? Should we continue to work on it? Should I make a PR for this? Yeah, that was it for this presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions if someone has any. If not, please go to GitHub and comment on the PRs and discuss. Thanks.
Yep, thank you, Miki. I think you're up for the next set of presentation as well. So
that's right.
Let me share back. And maybe one thing to remind people, if you want to queue even during the presentation, you should feel free to do so. And now we're going to move to the code flow improvement. So let me pass you back control.
Great. Yes, so we did a lot of work on the code flow implementation. So I think you will hear more from how this is going implementation-wise from Madi later. But we have added substantial changes to the code flow and made it more clear. It was quite hand-wavy before, so it wasn't really clear in the specification on how you should implement this. and previously the token endpoint was also a static OCM endpoint, but now it is configurable in the discovery, so you could point it to your OAuth server if you like, and you don't have to coexist on the OCM server. And we made the format of all of the JSON messages align with OAuth to the extent that we could. So the hope is that we can reuse OAuth and OIDC libraries for implementing this. And Giuseppe simplified the token exchange and the related requirements in the text mostly. Yeah, so we added a new code flow section, and the token request and token response is defined as close to OIDC as possible. And we updated the security considerations. Yeah, so use HTTPS and don't log the tokens, basically. We renamed the capability from receive code to token exchange and made the endpoint discoverable. We reuse the shared secret instead of a separate code. So previously there were two mutually exclusive ways of sending the what's essentially the refresh token. It was called code, and for everything else it's called the shared secret. So we reused the shared secret. So the only difference is now that you don't use it to access directly. Instead, you use it as a refresh token to get a short-lived token. And yeah, I changed a little bit about the reference section. So this was merged and published as version 8 of the Presti draft, precisely after the call for adoption went out. So this might be a good time to practice how we adopt changes into the OCM working group. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miki. Giuseppe.
Yes, thanks, Giuseppe. So maybe I can add also that all of those changes, which look very, very much breaking changes, we did them in agreement, also thinking that at the moment, this is one of those aspects of the spec which is less mature, and we essentially take the freedom to implement what we want because there is no implementation. Meaning, like, there is no, at least to the best of our knowledge, there is no system that really implements this part of the spec. So backward compatibility is absolutely not a concern. That's why we can take the liberty to rename things and rearrange. Ideally, now we're at the point, and this I'm kind of giving the hand also to the next presentation by Madi, we are at the point that actually some implementation is coming up live, and so that then we kind of put all of this to the real world proof, if I can say.
Yeah, it's the changes were due to some input from starting implementation, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, Matthias.
Hi, this is Matthias Kraus. Just regarding the code flow changes, what I just noticed right now is that maybe regarding backward compatibility, we should use another name than shared secret for the refresh token, because otherwise, like older implementations might use this refresh token as a shared key or shared secret and leak it in some way, which was not intended.
Yeah, I can answer that. So it goes together with the capability token exchange. So the the idea is basically to allow current parsers to not break and you will still know if the shared secret should be used as a refresh token or not based on the capabilities. I don't think so. If people are leaking the shared secrets, it's even more of a big deal than if they are leaking the refresh token, because that's used for direct access. So I think it's a good idea to keep the shared secret instead of the separate code, because it was a pain for the parsers and for doing the implementation.
Thank you. Maybe one question I have around like the like changes you mentioned from version 7 to version 8, and as part of the call to adoption. So the call to adoption was started at version 7, even though like one day later there was version 8. For the people that have read and participated in the call for adoption, did people read the specific part of the code flow? Miki?
I don't know how many of the people who were doing the call for adoption, how much they had known about the details of the code flow. But as Giuseppe said, it's an unimplemented part of the specification, and the only real use case for it is the ongoing work that Madi will present soon, and that was the driver for making the changes. So I think I don't think a lot of people will mind the changes, but maybe Matthias is not happy with the change and might want to persuade us that it's a good idea to roll back some of it.
Matthias?
Yeah, so I have read the changes and I'm also happy with the changes. Mostly, I just have some concerns regarding the shared secret wording, because it just isn't a shared secret anymore, and I think it's bad practice to not put something somewhere to put something in a place which says there's something other in there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So I guess we should continue discussion on that part, specifically renaming of the key, if it's acceptable to reuse an old key for legacy purposes, and or if we should have a totally different key. It was Giuseppe, it was you who noticed this part of the change and proposed it. Do you have any comments?
Indeed, it was me with the idea that already that part of the spec was implemented, so that the ability to send a shared secret is already there now. True that it changes the meaning once we go in a mode where it's actually a token that you exchange to get the short-lived token. But overall, it would still keep the meaning of being a shared secret, in the sense that it's a secret shared between the two systems. From this point of view, it's still meaningful to keep the same name. Of course, then Nick is right. The reason why we kept the name is in that case, really for backward compatibility. So that ideally we have exactly the same payload with an extra, and then the extra requirement to I want it to be used as an exchange token or not becomes optional, and so we are more compatible with existing implementations. Also, my expectation would be that just to conclude on that implementations may start to implement this building on top of the existing thing. So it would be like something to be put on top in some way.
Okay. So is this something you like? I think you can both add and like start a thread on the mailing. It can even mention like a GitHub issue you open to discuss that. It seems there's still some discussion to be happening here. Also, maybe one short reminder: you can like queue when you want to ask a question or like answer it. It helps to facilitate the meeting. David, you've been queuing.
Yes, thank you. I was just, I wanted to make a general remark. I think we should keep the security and with all these implications as priority. And so I get Matthias' comment totally that we should stick to naming conventions, and I also get Miki's comment that shared secret has a different meaning or obscurity to the users. But generally speaking, I think with now being in a working group, we can revisit each and every decision we OCM had made and consider, is it the most secure and the modern approach to deal with the problem, even though it's going to be a breaking change, and even though it's adding extra effort on each and every one. But I think if we are going to have a final version of OCM in version 2.0 or whatever it is going to be called in December next year, I would love to have a very clear and structured and a secure API in the end. Does it make sense to you what I'm saying?
So I think this is a question to the group.
If not, it's fine, right? You can. It's just a general remark, and we should always keep security on top of our priority, from my perspective.
Yep, agree.
Ed,
Maybe.
I just wanted to support his general remark. It's definitely the case that once the change control is moved to the working group, that you can revisit any decisions that have been made previously. So that's absolutely true. And it's also the case that if you believe that what you have now may not be something that would be approved by the IETF as a whole, you can request early review by the security directorate. And the security directorate folks will assign somebody to take a look at it and make sure that it matches what they expect from an IETF spec in the current generation. And if you feel like that's valuable, you can do it even when you're considering adoption, much less after a draft has been adopted.
So if we put the question like this, we have at least a couple of implementers here. Is it a good idea to do these changes if we simply change back the shared secret to code like we had? So nobody's implementing it. Nextcloud will get it for free, and David, you're in charge of own cloud, so you can.
Well, so I see. Sorry, I cut the line. I'm sorry, very much sorry.
Yes, and in the interest of time, I've logged the queue just so we can go also to Madi, like talk, like right after in presentation. Matthias.
Yeah. So I wouldn't go back to code. I would just call it what it is. It's refresh token. It's a refresh token, so I'd call it refresh token. I don't. Yeah.
Giuseppe.
So to be very quick, in fact, I wanted to say we should take this discussion really in GitHub and then iterate over there. And I guess the discussion here is not that really just a name, but are we ready to do a breaking change or not? Again, I don't want to answer now. It's really more for later. The change at the moment was made with that priority in mind, not to break completely the current structure, but we can definitely revisit the whole thing. And then, of course, we have much more freedom.
Yep, correct. That's I think what David and Ted like were saying as well. David.
Yeah, generally speaking, I would not change it now, to be honest. But going forward for the final version to be published by the working group, I definitely would make it clear and unmisunderstandable. And this I'm saying as OnCloud.
Okay. Yep. So definitely something to discuss on the mailing. This seems to be quite an active topic here. On that, we'll move to Madi presentation, which is on implementation, which seems to be the like topic where we moved in a way. Do I have? Oh yes, this one. Oh yes, Madi, and I will pass you slide control. Okay, you should be in.
Hello, I'm Matty, and a little bit background for me is that I was hired by Michel Dion, another co-author of OCM, back in 2023 in the later stages of the Science Mesh effort, which was based on OCM to connect the universities' EFSs together. And then I joined the OCM specification effort and tried to refactor the test suite. And then here we are. So I had something like this last year in the CS3 to present the Science Mesh and the test suite. So I'm really glad that today we made it to IETF. I'm really happy about that. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about our sovereign tech agency funded activity, which consists of code flow, implementation for Nextcloud, and also other activities that are more or less related to test suite. I just generalize them into test suite, but they are different. So the first one is directory service and where are you from page. Where are you from page is a very new way of accepting the invitations, which was proposed by Giuseppe, Mika, and Neil, but we managed to made it work just a couple of months ago during the EOS test, partially because only Nextcloud has the ability to do where are you from pages, but then I added it to OSIS and OpenCloud and also the Sandbox. I'm actually in process of adding it to Sandbox. And then this is the OCM test suite and Windows CIs, which also helps the vendors to catch errors and OCM violations early in their own CI systems, which in my opinion is going to be very beneficial. And then the code flow implementation, which Mika and all of you were discussing right now. It is done by Enrique Pablo, a contractor that I think Mika and Giuseppe hired to do this project. And then we have the project for OCM reference implementation. The OCM reference implementation as of now is supposed to be Riva. Riva is a software developed by, if I remember correctly, Sandbox, and also some contribution from other companies like OnCloud, OpenCloud, and other people. What the issue with Riva is that it's very big, does a lot of things, and is actually an interoperability platform for many storage backends. We want something more focused on OCM itself, so it can help us to test our new ideas, like Mika mentioned, journaling or other stuff, while developing the specification. And on the other hand, also help the new implementers or the existing implementers to see the code version of their specification. And we are going to make sure to adapt it to, on different branches I can think of the new ideas, not for everything on the main branch. So we can have different branches for different ideas and then test it against each other and see the problems. Also, I'm going to mention another thing which isn't in my slides because I wanted to keep my slides short. The use of OCM in other areas. One area is Nextcloud that is actually using OCM for their video conferencing. They call Nextcloud Talk. I think Maxine can correct me if I'm wrong. And then Matthias is using OCM for sharing maps, like it's called Open GeoMesh that built on top of OCM to share maps with other people. And next slide. So here is the CodeFlow implementation for Nextcloud. I tried to read the Enrique's changes and find out, but this might not be exactly what he's done, but I asked if he's agree with me, and then he said, yes, I might be a little bit wrong here. So as we know, OCM use shared secret, which is permanent. And if you get the shared secret somehow from logs or anything, you have permanent access to that share unless the share sender disables that share and revoke the share. So this is a security risk. So proposed CodeFlow approach is that we use the OAuth2 and use, it's really just the normal and standard OAuth was adapted to OCM share flow. The user initiates the action and then receives a refresh token, then gets their short-lived token and then access the request with that short-lived. And then if you like that token or accidentally lose that token, you're fine because it's going to be active for some time. I'm really not sure how much time, but enough. And there is also a demonstration of the whole process between two Nextcloud. I call one Nextcloud 1 and Nextcloud 2. So the user on Nextcloud 1 sends a signed post. Oh, I actually forgot about the signed HTTP request. Signed HTTP request is a feature that only Nextcloud have today. It is not part of sovereign tech agency, but I'm really happy to add that myself to Riva. I'm thinking about that. So a signed request is essentially the servers providing their public key. So the remote servers can verify a request really comes from the origin it claims to come. This is a security feature that OSIS and OpenCloud doesn't have as of now, and they would really benefit because it helps them to, at least reduce the spam, which requests are legitimate. So a user sends a post request, and then, for example, let's just say the protocol is WebDAV, and on the WebDAV, you have an option called shared secret. You get that shared secret, And then the user on the Nextcloud 2 uses that shared secrets to obtain an access token from the Nextcloud 1 instance. And the access token grants temporary access to file hosted by Nextcloud 1. And that's it. There is also some features. I think David can correct me. It's called sync. So OSIS actually saves a copy of the shared file inside the OSIS, and then doesn't, I'm not sure. I'll just leave it to David. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I know. So these are the security benefits. We don't use the permanent token, which is a great security, and it also prepares for multi-protocol compatibility with WebDAV and Graph API. And then the next steps are, we are going to continue that in GitHub discussions and also mailing list, because you guys were discussing them right now, so I don't spend time in them. And then the OCM test suite. The OCM test suite is something I worked on to ensure that different platforms can successfully share to each other. And the cross-platform validation is really insightful. At least we know what features work between what kind of platform, even what kind of versions. Like sometimes Nextcloud 29 works with Nextcloud 28, but at the same time, Nextcloud 30 couldn't work with Nextcloud 29 because of they introduced the signed request. And then we very much like to, as I said before, create PR for the EFSs to have the next OCM test inside the CI, so they can verify their changes against OCM and cut the round trip between releasing a software and then finding out, oh, it doesn't work with OCM. It just broke something in the release flow. And how does the OCM test suite works? Well, it's an isolated Docker environment that has a matrix of one-on-one between different platforms and also different versions. So you can see I am testing OnCloud, for example. OnCloud is deprecated. I'm just using an old picture here. So OnCloud tries version 10, tries to share to OSIS version 5, for example, or OSIS version 5 tries to share to OSIS version 7 or access the share from OSIS 7 share. We have a combination of about 146 different tests right now that I'm going to, refactor again to use the updated versions only. These are very old versions here. And the result is tables like this that shows exactly different test scenarios. Like we have share with test, invite shares, and also public link test. And you can see how it interacts with the others. And the real, the baseline would be the OCM reference implementation that is currently a Node.js app that is a bit outdated as well. So we have to actually rewrite it to be up to date to the spec. That's it. I'm done. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mandy, for the presentation. Any question? Up. And if not, any question or discussion that you would like to be addressed about the existing draft? it does not seem that this is the case. So thank you all for the meeting. It seems there are like actions to be taken and to be discussions to be continued on the mailing list. Should you have like any other topic that you would like to discuss, feel free to like keep engaging on the mailing. The changes on GitHub are also reported weekly, so these will be reflected. But for longer discussion, having them on the mailing seems to be important. That's it. Any final point before we disband?
I sent an email to the mailing list about the naming of the key, so please make your opinions heard.
Thank you, Miki.
So Giuseppe again, so thanks, Miki. Indeed, I will make sure to answer, but I can maybe already say something before we close there, because I think this topic is even more general, and it is about how much do we want to clean things up for a kind of version 2 of the spec, which is backward compatible, versus how much we want to keep things backward compatible. We already have quite a pile of things in GitHub that go in this direction. So I would really raise this more at a different level. Even David, I understand that what he pointed out was not just specifically the name of this field, and naming it in a way or on a different way, but more like thinking the whole payload with a different mindset. And then, okay, if we go for something that is worth it, then we break compatibility. Just to put things in scope, I'll try and write something also on the mail, so then we keep the discussion moving on from now. So thanks. And by the way, thanks to Thibaut also for the nice digest. This is an IETF feature I was not aware of. So good to see that we can have this digest from GitHub to the mailing list.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I will reiterate, I think what like David and Ted said, like within the IETF, we take the protocol and there might be some breaking changes that can happen as the IETF and the group takes ownership. That's something that the group will decide. Again, engage on the mailing, I think for that. Hey, Lisa, you joined just for the last bit of the meeting, but nice to have you. Any final word or question before we disband?
Am I just an hour late because of daylight savings? Oh yeah. No!
but we had fantastic like note taker I've seen on the site, and also like a recording which is available. So
I'm so
happy
sorry
to
go, everybody.
to discuss and catch up with you. Like we knew this time was early for you, so thanks for making it still like 1 hour later.
Oh, this was just on the wrong time on my calendar. I correlated all the times against the doodle incorrectly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. The fact that the meeting was scheduled during like the kind of like discrepancies between like Europe and the US in terms of daylight saving time did not help to make this easy.
Yeah, time zones are the worst.
Okay, well,
I'll follow up on all the notes and catch up. I'm sorry.
At least everybody got the chance to see you, Lisa.
Great. Well,
indeed, very nice to see you anyway. So we keep in touch for the rest. Thanks a lot.
Yes, and this is for you, like with a reminder, the IETF offers a way to import the upcoming meeting like directly within your calendar as an ICS. So as Michael is pointing out, you should make use of that. It's like very useful, even though sometimes we miss it, and that's it. Great. On that, thank you all, and I think that concludes the meeting. Thank you all for participating.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.